would have the source portion here with its module schema and ABI redirects, or is it imports? I don't remember anymore. And then we'd have the dependencies as also a root collection, right? With their names and ERIs, right? And basically that would allow us to go and write something like this in our schema, right? So import whatever into package from some dependency, for import something into another package from some other dependency, and we would have basically this kind of syntax. Basically, we'd, instead of writing full URIs here, we'd have the dependency names, right? And that would essentially resolve the main issue, which is like the basically these four issues would essentially be pretty easily resolved with that, right? So the mixing types and package hosts. So the schema should be more concerned with types and their relationships, not where a package is hosted or what authority it belongs to. It would solve the fact that it's hard to track the URIs right now because we would have to update it everywhere. It would, well, now harder for tooling to extract dependencies. Like for a tool to extract dependencies, it needs to parse the schema and get the imports. And then now we would have like I don't know, a set of dependencies from which the tool could extract everything. And the schema gets referred to wrap ABI, which contains types and their relationships. If a dependency gets updated, then the ABI changes, even if the types the dependencies contain are the same. This is not a feature. This would be solved because there would be only one. So wait, I actually forgot what I wanted to say for this one, but essentially, at least these three were pretty much covered with just this simple addition of the dependencies change, right? And the neat thing about this would be that we could also have some kind of depths or packages manager, depending on how we want to call it, dependencies or packages. I'm not sure on this, right? And that is that we could have like in the CLI, we would have like depths or packages, right? A command through which we could then add a dependency, remove it, or update it, right? And basically that would just be a very simple, way of handling the dependencies within, which are found within the manifest. That's the thing that we kind of came down to. Now we had one of the takeaways here was looking into TOML for project manifests, right? And I didn't want to really take too much time looking into TOML at this moment because, well, in essence, right now we have YAML and JSON, right, which are basically interchangeable and they work for us. And I do think it's a separate issue in and of itself, right? So I just really wanted to focus on getting something done immediately, and then figuring out what else it can do for us. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yuri, do you have anything else to add here?
That's pretty much it. I guess on the point of 4 up above, which you mentioned, that's mostly concerned about being able to update the dependency URI, and if its types don't change, then the schema doesn't change. That's kind of the whole point of. But it's kind of repeating the first point of mixing types.
Yeah, exactly.
And just wanted to add, like, for the dependency manager, or for like just a CLI command of deps add. That could be an optional feature we do. It could be useful because it gives the CLI a good time to notify the developer if that dependency even exists at that URI, maybe do some error handling or things like that, instead of on build time to say, hey, I cannot fetch this.
Yeah.
It could even suggest using redirects if it can't find something, or
Yeah, I just want to say that I think this looks awesome. And then yeah, I thought I had one other comment, but I forgot it. When we're downloading these dependencies, um, where would we store them in like the .polywrap folder? Um, and then would that happen upon build time as well? So the first time you run build, if there aren't dependencies cached, it would pre-cache them.
This feature we started to just implement the first step towards these dependencies, just solve a couple of first issues, but we could definitely add caching or something like that
Yeah,
Polywrap folder.
I'd say yes. Caching would be a separate issue from this one. This one is mostly concerned with bringing this syntax into the schema, right? So
Okay,
that
got
we
it.
have simple dependency management like this, and then any kind of caching and everything. That's freaking awesome. I want that, and that should come like as the immediate next step. Keep it so that we keep it as simple as humanly possible per pull request.
Okay, awesome.
Guys, any questions, comments on this? I
Uh,
really,
Oh, just
yeah.
to add one more thing, which is not included here because it's supported through import redirects, but during our talks, we thought about the import redirects or the API redirects now and the dependencies and how they play together. So basically, every dependency could have one or two URIs. It could have a dependency and an optional redirect. And if you really think about it, it's kind of like a dual system of URIs that other languages don't have, because we have one URI that we want to pull the schema from to do code generation. So that's what import redirects are mostly used if you don't want to pull them from the URI or the dependency. And the other URI is the URI at which we want to kind of register that dependency so that the client can find it. So we are really a special case where we, in the future, we might even want to maybe move ABR redirects into the dependencies. So for each dependency, you could define like a redirect or something like that. It's basically a dual system of URIs, one for pulling schema for the purposes of cogen and one for quote unquote publishing for the client or registering for the client purposes.
yeah, I almost think it makes sense in this same PR to refactor the import ABIs feature. And maybe instead of having it within the source property, we could, you know, uh, for each dependency in the URI field, instead of just putting a single string there, we could maybe have an object where it's like URI and then it has a property which is ABI. So it basically gives you a ABI URI to be able to fetch that ABI from. Um, and then maybe it has another which is maybe invoke or something, or May maybe a better name is build and invoke. So it's one URI for build time and then one URI for maybe runtime or something, or for being able to send in invocations. Yeah, I'm
These
not sure, but yeah.
these
That's
two
why we
changes,
didn't want
yeah.
to do it as part of this first feature or pull request, because there's some things to consider here. So
Yeah,
Okay,
that
okay. Yep.
that's the main issue, and we wanted to keep it, to this. And still, I mean, still we also have to consider the implications between the import APIs and this URI here, right? Because, well, right now they are completely separate, right? But this one really does concern itself with the URI that's mentioned here, right? So you can have a situation where this URI here gets redirected through the import APIs. See, I actually did make this situation create this situation here. We have some URI.ens, the same one here. And then it goes to a file system path. I believe the correct behavior here would be that it goes to this file system path on in CodeGen time when it's generating the schema, when it's generating the types.
I think that makes sense. See, I think the way I'm seeing this is that basically import APIs would be like an explicit sim link in the wrapper.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think yeah, I mean with explanation, yeah, you gave I was like not in favor of this, but now I think it makes sense for now. And with the idea Jordan mentioned, and yeah, just to not get too deep, as for now, I think this makes total sense to yeah to have it like you guys did it. See, I mean, my main idea also was to instead of the in the URI dependencies, we should accept FS. Let's say I think that should also be a solution there. And I thought yeah import APIs would be overkill because we can just yeah support FS there, right? And that would but yeah um
I mean, we can have like this, right?
yeah and yeah and that would be the same as right as the import APIs.
No, yeah, the main difference there is that you wouldn't be able to easily invoke the FS
Exactly.
URI at runtime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, you're right then.
Uh,
Okay.
do you have the link to the HackMD? Richie, can you post it in the thread?
Oh, sorry. This is the one from the tech
Oh,
commit.
I
So
no, I think I found it. Found it.
yeah, here's a
So
link for anyone.
yeah. Just to throw this out there, we could have it also like this. So an optional ABI for the ABI. So the URI is used for the client and up above line 119. So the URI is used for the client for invoking, and API is used for the CLI to pull the API from and CodeGen.
Yep. Yeah, I really like that.
Can I just ask, and maybe this is a really stupid question, but why is this a hard thing to invoke? I mean, this is just a unique identifier of the of this dependency. If we do mention it to live here, well,
Yeah. So it's it would work on your machine, but as
yeah,
soon as you move this wrapper to run somewhere else, it wouldn't work.
exactly. Yeah, of course, of course. I was thinking in local terms, so you're absolutely right.
And the other thing I think is cool with this is that if we wanted to basically embed dependencies with a wrapper when we publish it, so similarly, when you publish, let's say an npm package, you can have some of those node modules like living inside of your inside of that package. Yeah, we could potentially do that with this system where, you publish it and in the root folder you have like the wrap.info, and then there's a subfolder which is like imports or something like that. And then, we could just basically add the dependencies there to be able to lock dependencies.
That's
Yeah,
one
we could.
option. That would be basically publishing a self-contained wrapper, essentially, right?
Yeah, right. Yep.
Like a portable version of the wrapper instead of having like just the wrapper's executable code, you would have all of the executable code, right? That's your idea.
Yeah. It's just like very traditional practices of vendoring dependencies.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, do we agree that I guess if we had the API optional attribute, we would be removing the import APIs?
I'm actually kind of down, now that I think about it, kind of down for that, even as part of the first PR. It's kind of
So
simple.
Yeah,
so
same here. Same here.
basically we remove this and have the API as an
Exactly.
optional.
I see. See.
I'm not sure you see it. It's right above in the first dependency.
Yeah, I'm just see.
Okay.
I like being thorough. Okay, this actually makes a lot of sense. We can 100% do this.
Yeah, and would you mind just adding a quick note down below about like we have notes about the dependency manager. It would be cool to just add a quick note there below that saying you know, being able to vendor dependencies and have them bundled.
That would be like a future
Yeah.
option, maybe.
Yeah. And you know, you could even have it as just a simple flag where it's like bundle equals true underneath the dependency.
And you're even
Yeah.
saying that could be per dependency, as far as I
Yeah.
understood you.
Right, yep.
Yep, that would definitely be an interesting piece of feature work. I agree.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jordan, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to confirm, what do you mean by bundling dependency? Do you mean like embedding, linking? What do you mean by bundling?
I just mean that it would get put into the build folder. So inside of build, you would have another folder called dependencies or maybe imports. And then within that, you would just add the wrappers that are your bundled dependencies so that when you
Mm,
publish IPFS, you know, all of it's right there.
yeah, but why do we need to do that?
Yeah, so it helps eliminate the dynamic nature of fetching dependencies. So, for example, if I'm using uniswap.eth and I want to make sure that every time my wrapper gets run, it's using the same version of uniswap.eth, I can just set bundle equal to true, and it'll, you know, when I build it and publish it, Uniswap is embedded in my folder that I publish, so that when people run my wrapper, it'll fetch uniswap.eth from my bundled dependencies.
Yeah, but why don't we use locking or something similar that other language is using and have like, yeah, we can just have IPFS when we lock.
Right, yeah, so that's also possible. You could just use an IPFS hash and that effectively is locking, and we have that today. But the downside is that you now have to depend on that IPFS hash being persisted. Whereas if you bundle it, your whole wrapper folder will be persisted. Um, so it helps minimize the reliance on URIs that may or may not exist or may not change, because it's all self-contained.
It basically means if your wrapper is available in a client, all of its dependencies are always available in that client because they're in the same directory.
Yeah, that makes sense, but I am I'm concerned about like this creating bulky wrappers. And yeah, so idea of like having this dynamic wrapper was like we can use caching, like we don't need to have all these wrappers uh bundled, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
if at the end we are going to bundle it, then what's the point?
yeah. So I agree with that. You know, first to answer your concern about too large of a package size, if we are publishing to something like IPFS, it'll get deduplicated anyway, because the files will have the same hash. And so that solves that problem. And then just one last kind of higher level point is that I think that since we have built the toolchain to be so dynamic, we need to allow a gradient of options for people to, choose what they want to lock down more. And so if it makes sense for someone to use a dynamic URI like ENS, then go for it. If they want to maybe use an IPFS hash, they can do that. Or if they want to bundle it fully, they could do that. So it's a gradient of options for developers to choose from for what makes sense for them.
I can see this being especially useful for mission critical stuff. Just stuff that simply never should fail, for external reasons. I'm actually quite happy with an option of doing this. And
Yeah,
Mirage, I completely understand your point. Like, however, I would say like this would be a thing of should we push the like rappers live somewhere else dogma as much as possible, or do we allow people to have this option of bundling everything together and just making sure that it always runs? This is especially maybe for I don't know, even for mobile gaming. This would be something that's a very interesting thing, simply because you're on mobile, right? I could see like people making that trade off for sketchy connections.
yeah, we can have a workshop around this new feature in the future, so that we fully talk about all this.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and about Polywrap depths or package manager. Uh, as I remember correctly, we talked about like having ppm, just like have npm. So yeah, are we going to do that? Yes. So yeah, how does this plays with ppm?
So that's, I think, for another workshop. For this first, I guess, feature, we wouldn't include the Polywrap dApps and package manager, and we could have a separate workshop session to figure out if we want to do this as like a short-term feature as part of the Polywrap CLI until we have the package manager, or do we want to immediately go to like a package manager? But I don't see a need for us to do that in the first PR, at least.
So all of this here would not necessarily be part of the first PR, which is mainly concerned with this part here, right? This is like an optional little nice thing to have, and it can live as the first version of the ppm. It can live within Polywrap, and we can easily extract it out at a later point. I mean, we're doing so many breaking changes. Like, I don't feel like this is going to be that big of a break, right? Even if we do remove it out at one point and put it into ppm.
Yeah, but if we are going to do that, I'm not sure. Like, why don't just do it from the beginning?
Well, honestly, the one reason why I always kind of want to do things this way is because it's small enough to not make that huge of an impact, and we can, if we like it or don't like it, we can, keep it or throw it away and then refactor it into something that actually makes sense. It's kind of just a trade-off of being able to deliver as quickly as possible and keeping things as simple as possible for the end user. I mean, for example, if we did have a ppm and we just decide on having add, remove, and update there, what do we do but add another CLI someone needs to download, right? Just for that simple reason. And my logic may be completely flawed, and please disagree if you disagree with me. This is just the way that I kind of think about these things.
Yeah, let's talk about it in a future workshop. I feel like we're getting a little too into the details.
I'm happy with that. All right. Any more questions? Could we maybe put a say, okay, we can get started on this part here on the proposed solution. and we can create a ticket for this and get started on this, and then have this as part of a future workshop and this as part of a future workshop. Does that sound like a good takeaway?
Actually, one thing. How does the current redirect or what's it called import ABIs work? Does it work only with ABIs or with schema too?
Yeah, it works with schema. It works with wrap.info, abi.json, and also abi.yaml.
Awesome. It might be a bit weird to call it ABI then, though maybe not. Yeah, I think I'm okay with that.
Well, it was called an import redirect before it got renamed, essentially.
I
I
mean,
think
schema is still technically an ABI, so
Yes.
see.
I guess.
I mean, I think I completely get your point, but I think calling it ABI makes sense. Even though, yeah, a schema, it's not exactly an ABI, but yeah, it's what the input we need in order to get the ABI. So I guess it's okay to call it that
Exactly.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it
Yeah,
makes sense to me. I
and
agree.
the wrap, yeah, and also expect wrap.info, which it's worth mentioning that that's not an ABI, but it's a manifest that has the ABI. So yeah, we're expecting those two things plus yeah, we support that ABI.json, which is the ABI attribute from the manifest, and yeah, in YAML format.
Do we support just a wrapper URI? So would it automatically find the wrap info?
Uh
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I don't know actually if the current import ABIs actually support a different URI.
It doesn't. I think it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it does, so it would have to be like a full path to the
Wait.
drop down info.
But that's like a really simple option to add. So we can easily add that if we want.
Oh, this is not a wrap URI. It's a local file system path.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think in the future we can change that into FS URI, wrap URI.
Okay, cool. Just in the interest of time, we have like 25 minutes left and we have a few others to go through. Yeah, it seems like everyone's really in favor of this. There's no immediate, uh, you know, rejection. So
Yeah, I have one quick question. By adding like the dependency section to the manifest, does this also means that when we build a package now we can bundle, like we will have the attribute bundle in the build comment with this pull request, or that will be for, yeah, another one.
I'd
Another
say,
one.
yeah, I'd say if you take a look at the future workshops, I think it's like something that we're gonna go have for the future. See, right here.
Okay. Okay.
And the depths slash packages manager would also be something that's separate. What one just one flavor question: depths, dependencies, or packages? What's your guys'
Can you
thought?
repeat that?
Just the naming, dependencies or packages.
Dependencies. I would say I would like more dependencies, but
I like
I can
I agree.
second
packages.
that.
Anyone in favor of packages? Cool. Can we put then as a takeaway that we can start work on the dependencies manifest section?
yeah, and the main change would be that now I can call the package like a name and not with URI in the schema of the GraphQL, right? Like that would be the change I would see
So
as a
this, so this here, right? Like some dep name, and it
exacto.
would
Yeah,
be here, and it would be through the name. Exactly.
cool, cool. Listo. Vale. Cool.
All right. Uh, Thanks a lot for listening to my TED Talk, people, and thanks a lot for the input. Really, really useful.
Yeah, this is super exciting.
Okay. So the next one for today is Um, one second.
Yeah, it was the complex types and then the data translation, right?
Correct. The
Or
complex types and then data translation. Yes.
yeah, Niraj, would you like to do the complex types?
Yeah, sure.
And can you share the link with your document when you get a chance?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you see it? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So the idea here was to have the support for the custom type in schema. So and we would be removing any kind of custom type from our own binding and schema, because yeah, so not everyone needs big number or big int and yeah, all the extra type that we provide. So yeah, that's the basic idea of like removing the custom type from the schema and also allowing other third parties to create their own custom type and add support for that. So uh the schema side user experience of this would look like this, and uh, the basic concept here is any, array, and scalar, where any here is a thought of. So yeah, I'll talk about this later. Let's say any is a union of all the type, and array is basically array container, while scalar is union of all the native or base types like uint, int, string. So yeah, I think this should be clear. And here in we have created a new directive called extern. This extern directive will uh, 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 we will say that this type is basically an external type. It's defined outside of the schema, or sorry, outside. And yeah, we basically need to have the parser and the bindings for this type injected from the outside. So that's what extern nodes here. So
What is the outside? The CLI or client outside?
yeah,
Or
by outside I mean like it is in some separate third party package, like you have big number package, and maybe so you basically have big number package in TypeScript, right? And then you have binding for parsing, binding for big number package, and parsers for big number package. And we will allow users to like link those into our tool chain while building, so that we will be able to add support for big number while building the wrapper. And during the client side invocation, we will also allow support for like decoding things from message pack to this custom type. So yeah, we will have this kind of third party packages which will have all these methods to like inject typings into wrapper and allow decoding the message pack from message pack to this kind of third custom types. Does it make sense?
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and sorry, just to maybe describe this a different way. Up top, the scalars that you see, these are a part of our base types. So these three would basically go along with the uint, string, bytes. and then the idea with the extern, just to basically restate what Niraj is saying, is to allow people to define their own scalar types, their own types like big number, and then define what type of base type those are, so that way when we serialize these complex types like big number or map or set, we can always know how to serialize them in the form of base types. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah, that's the idea. So here the best type for this is string. So big number will always be serialized as a string, and you can have like a big number object somewhere living outside. It doesn't matter. The map is basically so best type of map is basically key and so here best type of map is key and value, and yeah, we are having this template. So this template will be used when annotating here. So if you see map annotate, so when we annotate, we are using this template here. If you see, we have key and value, and here this key key should be scalar and value can be any. So here key must be of type scalar while value must be of type any. In case of set, we also have base type, which is array of item scalar and template. So yeah, if you want to have set, you can have set here, annotate it with set of string or set of int, whatever. In case of big number, yeah, since it doesn't have template, you can directly use it without annotation. So that's the basic idea, and this base type will be used in the ABI. So this is for like our ABI to so this base type is to describe is to convert this into the ABI. So how are we going to represent this custom map type in the ABI? So this is how we are going to represent it, while template is just for like schema. So if you check the ABI for this, we have extension types. So extension types will have type, I don't know, maybe it's good to have base type, I don't know, but yeah, I have put the base type here. Yeah, I'm still not sure about whether I need this or not, but yeah, we can have map, we can have set, so we can have all the extension type here, and we can have object types. So here, if you see, type is valid and properties is a. So valid a, it is of type map. So here it says map, and it has object ref to valid a, and this is valid a type, which is valid.a, and it has property key and value. Key is so key is type of string and value is type of int. So this is basically we are converting this schema structure into the ABI using this base type annotation. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
it makes sense. I think this will that object ref stuff. Yeah, I guess that's for custom types mostly. And yeah, this will be helpful for eventually, if I understand things correctly, like implementing union types. I think if this is implemented, it will make life easier when it comes to tackle that problem.
yeah. So union is fundamentally different. So here the union type that we have in the that Nestor has implemented is different. So I would like to say this here, this in your union is basically union for the ABI. And this is the, by union I mean like bundle of all these definitions that we have in the ABI. So here we have any definition, and any definition is basically union of scalar, array, object, and enum type, while the scalar is the union of uint, int, string, bytes, boolean, etc., like all these scalar types.
Okay.
And here I have distinguished this between base union and union, because this by base union I mean it is the union of the native types, while by just union I mean it is union of the complex types. And this is just an implementation detail. We don't need to go too into it, but I'll just show you what I mean by this. So in the ABI, okay, yeah, we have definition. Oh wait, instead of going here, now I should go here, right? Wrap source formats wrap info point one. Okay, so if you see any definition, this is basically an union of array, scalar, map, object, enum. Yeah, and since map will be custom type, we can remove this, and unresolved object or enum, I don't think this should be in the ABI. So yeah, we can remove this from the final ABI. This is something we need for intermediate purposes, but yeah, this shouldn't be in the final ABI. So we can have also any definition as the union of these complex types, and scalar definition as just enum of these types. So that's the fundamental difference, where here the scalar definition have this type as this, so it is like native type, while in the ABI we have any definition as like union of all these type complex types. So that's implementation details there. But yeah, we can, so by representing any type as a union of these types, we can basically create any kind of type. So with array object enum scalar, by using by having union of all this type, we can have any kind of complex type in our schema. And we can allow support for many types here. So for example, we can represent this new numeric type, which is an alias. So alias is a new functionality introduced. You can alias any kind of type with this kind of alias keyword. And by aliasing, uh, you can alias, for example, in union of int and uint, which is basically int. So yeah, never mind it, but uh, you may get the point, right? So maybe for example, it was int 32 and int 64, then yeah, you can alias both as a numeric. And yeah, you can then use this kind of thing as a generics. So here, if you have any kind of union type, right, it will be basically a generic in the schema, because if you are defining a generic union type, you need to basically annotate it to use it somewhere. If you don't annotate it, you don't know what's the actual type of, or type is here. So for example, here in case of counter, I have created a new type called counter, which is basically just like a map, but it is map of scalar and numeric, from scalar to numeric. So yeah, here template would be counter instead of map. But yeah, for example, you have frequency count, which is very normal problem, and you have string, and you will be returning a counter object instead of map object. And yeah, in this case, you will have uint, uh, uint as the value. So here, if you put string here instead of uint, it will fail the validation, because we have defined the numeric as the union of the uint and int. So yeah, value must be of type numeric, which is union of uint and int. So if you define here anything else, it will fail. So yeah, this is for basically uh, constraining more on the types that is allowed or that are not allowed. So yeah, that's the another point. And yeah, you can even use this aliasing type in the uh, in the property or field directly with annotation. So you need to basically annotate when you are using it as a field. As I said before, like in the SDL, you need to be sure which type of which type it is. But yeah, it can be very helpful to use as a template. So yeah, that's the basic use case of this.
Yeah,
Does it
I
make
just want to say that I think that a good next step for this would probably to be to um, try to boil it down into a series of very simple to understand features or changes in the toolchain. Because I think that as we get deeper and deeper into this document, we may be kind of like doing a little too much too quick, and trying to make it in the form of the simple building blocks very explicitly might be helpful. And I think that it's all there, but just structuring the document in that way so that it's easier to understand. Um, I think that would be a good next step. And yeah, like just to kind of enumerate the kind of base features that we've described so far. The first base thing to do is to clearly define what the base types are, and to take the complex types out of it. The second thing would be to be able to describe base types as a collection of base types, or to be able to describe complex types as base types. Also, when you do that, you need to define a custom code generator for that, so that you know how to actually use this complex type in your WebAssembly. And then after that, the other things that Niraj has mentioned here is the ability to do templating, and also the ability to do type aliases. Um, and so I feel like having it as a series of those simple to understand blocks would make this proposal easier to understand.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And only reason I wasn't able to like create these stories is because yeah, as I have mentioned in live transparency, I was like busy with the visa and everything.
Yeah, definitely not trying to be critical, just trying to be constructive. Yep.
Yeah, that's the next step.
So I guess that to summarize, or to try to finish this out, um, do we maybe have consensus around some of those initial pieces, where we have the clearly defined base types, the ability to describe complex types in terms of base types, and then also the addition of the templating feature? Does that all kind of make sense to you guys?
All makes
Yeah,
sense to me,
Yeah.
but would love to see a more complete document.
here I have defined this scalar base type are this. We have basically three kind of types. scalar based type, list collection, and key value collection. And the fourth is enum type that I forgot here. But yeah, so here I have roughly try to define the types.
Awesome. So since we only have a few minutes left, should we maybe move on to Caesar and Esther's work quickly? I don't know if we have enough time though, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
No,
sure we
no.
have time for the web
You
assessment.
have 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes. I don't know if that's going to cut it, but let's do what we can, and then we can, pick that up on our meeting next week, which is focused on standards.
In any case, I believe that the changes that we've made to the document uh, since a couple of weeks ago aren't too many. We do have some points of discussions that we may want to bring up in a longer session. Um, but but yeah, I believe that maybe asking asynchronously for a for a quick check or two could optimize the time we take with it next week. Does that sound good?
See, I think that makes sense. Yeah, since we're doing things asynchronously, me and Esther push it this week. I'm going to send the document. Yeah, you can look into it, and yeah, next week, Monday or this Friday, we can asynchronously coordinate to talk about this. And yeah, I should have something ready for next meeting, if that makes sense.
If I could take this last minute and rob you probably just a couple. One of the points of discussions that we had and would like to know your thoughts about is our imports. They follow a pattern because our way of writing and reading to and from shared memory follows a pattern. Uh, this is true for arguments. This is true for results. This is true for sub-invocations, arguments, sub-invocation results, and so Caesar was proposing basically that we explain the pattern because it gets repeated, and then we can uh, touch over sub-invocation, etc. More briefly, and have like the full flow explained only once. If that didn't make much sense, we can wait, but yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
I have a few minutes to spare. So I can definitely stay longer. But yeah, if anybody wants to drop off, feel free.
I mean, if you're gonna cover that today, then I'll stay. The one of us.
I'm actually the one that doesn't have much time right now. I have to
Eh,
leave, but
Is there any rush to cover that today instead of next week?
um, I
Is
don't
it
Not,
think so.
blocking anything or like?
no, not
No.
really. I don't think so.
Then yeah, we can do it next week.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. This was a very productive session. Next week, we will be discussing standards. So please conduct your asynchronous workshops regarding those. And next week, I think we should also do some planning on next steps because we are getting closer with a number of these features and standards. So we would probably want to prioritize our next items. All right, great.
Awesome stuff.
Yep, thanks,
Thanks so
everyone.
much. Thanks everyone.
See you.